And today I'm going to be sharing my testimony. And I'm going to clean this here for a moment. Alright, and before I share my testimony, I would like to say a quick word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity that we have to share our testimonies and that we have to encourage each other and to really be able to overcome by the word of the testimony and the blood of the Lamb. And we ask that this testimony may be inspiring and encouraging to others, and that I also pray that you may give me the right words to say, that you may help me to share the right things and in a timely manner. And I thank you so much for your faithfulness. We just ask that your Holy Spirit may be among us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So I would like to start a little bit with a little bit of my background. I was born in Romania, and that is a country in Europe. And then when I was about 6 years old, I moved to Spain. I used to live with my grandma because my mom, when I was 4 years old, she had to leave to Spain because Romania, it was really having some struggles with really finding a good paying job. And I was there with my grandma for about 4 years. And then my mom came from Spain to Romania to take me with her and to live with her because I really missed her. She really missed me. And I grew up in a Christian family. Our whole family was Christian. But while I was with my grandmother, I was not really going a lot to church. I was just kind of left to, play on the Sabbath or just choose my own amusements. And it was when my mom came to take me from Romania and live with her when I was 6 years old. That was when my mom really had kind of like a reconversion. And she really committed her life again to Christ, that she really wanted to follow the right paths. And she wanted her daughter to be with her. So it was really beautiful to see. She just got baptized, so she came, rebaptized. So she came, she picked me up. And I came to Spain, and it was very different. At that time, I was just 6 years old, so I didn't really mind. I really didn't have a lot of friends in Romania yet. And I was in Spain. I started going to school, and I started going to church and really get involved into a lot of youth activities. And I remember myself being so excited. I remember talking with my mom on the street while we were walking. I was like, Mom, I really love Jesus. I want to serve him. And I remember saying that to my mom a lot when I was at that age. And we moved a lot in Spain. We went through different places. There was a time when we moved right next to a Christian academy, an Adventist academy, and that's where I met more young people, more young people that were Christians, because before I was going to public school, and there was just a lot of people that were not even Christians. And while I was there, they couldn't admit me into the Adventist academy. It was already filled, so then I had to go again to public school. And I remember the years at public school. I didn't I kind of enjoyed school, but it's still kind of that lack of really having a Christian kind of help, friends that are really helpful with that. So from that, from my childhood, when I had that love for Christ, it was kind of like diminishing more and more as years passed by. And now, a different chapter in my life, it was when I started to go to high school. I was homeschooled for about 2 years before I began high school. And I really wanted to go to high school and to be more with my friends. Finally, at that academy, they opened the way to for me to go. So I went there, and I started hanging out with some people that were not Christians. And I started hanging out with people that were kind of like bad influences for me. And I would say that once I started high school, for me, for my spiritual well-being, that was my downfall. Because even though I was going to church every week, I was doing a lot of youth activities, I was really involved in the church, but still, it was kind of like my spiritual life was dead. And I remember going to high school, and you know how us as youth, and even adults and older people, whenever Christ is not really in our lives, we kind of try to fill those voids with other things. So I was trying to fill my voids with friends, and just, my mom was pretty conservative, and I praise God for that now, because before I was very mad. I was like, I want to go partying, I want to just go out, and why can't I just go out with my friends? She wouldn't let me. And sometimes there's times that I actually convinced her after much and much trouble. And I'm just thankful for my mom that she didn't let me to do many of the things that I was really asking her to do. But I was starting to become a really a young woman that I was just really not interested. And it was since I was 5 years old also that I already had this view of what I wanted to do in life. I already had everything planned. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to a university, and I'm going to study there for 8 years because I need like special degrees to become a wildlife veterinarian. And that was always my dream, to work with animals. I was not interested in working with people. I was like, no, I do not want this. People are bad. I don't want to help them. And I just wanted to work with animals. And I had that dream always, like in my mind, just get a farm and have lots of animals, and then just travel the world. And that was my vision. So I grew up, going to school and having that vision, working towards that vision. And it was when my last year of high school that my mom met this man. I didn't mention, my mom and dad got divorced in 2005 when I was 6 years old. So it was when she brought me to Spain. And my mom, right in my last year of high school, she met this man from Washington, United States. And they met together, and things progressed. So they started a relationship, and things progressed also that they actually got engaged, and they were to get married. So I was not very happy, because my mom was telling me, well, now our family's going to change, and we're probably going to move to the United States. And in my mind, I was like, no, I do not want to go to the United States. There's no way I'm going to go to the United States. I have all my friends here. I'm going to school. I already have my plans of what I want to do in life. And I don't want to go to another country that I need to learn the language, and I need to learn like all these different things. I need to meet more people and start from zero. My mind was like, start from nothing. And my mom was like, no, we're going to have to go. So I remember in that last year of high school, it was like 9 months since my mom told me that we were going to go. Those 9 months, they were like the worst 9 months of my life, because I was like agonizing. I was like, no, I do not want to leave, because my friends really became kind of like my family. I was really clinging on to them. I was not very close to my mom, and that's unfortunate. So there was a time when the summer passed, and I was, in my mind, I was like, okay, I cannot, after I tried so many times to stay in Spain and just let my mom go, nothing, like, that didn't happen. My mom didn't let me stay in Spain, so I had to go with her to the United States. So I finished high school, and in September 2014, September 8th, we arrived to the United States. And we were all happy. It's like, okay, we're going to have a family. And at that time, I was just already like, okay, well, I guess this is what's happening. I have to adapt to whatever it's, I have to say goodbye to my friends. It was really hard. But even coming, we arrived to the house where we're going to stay. And I got enrolled into the public school that was right next to, actually was like a few miles from our home. The bus would have to pick me up every morning, which I was not used to that because in Spain we don't have stuff like that. But you know, it was a new experience for me to go to that school, meet new people, and learn English. But there was but it was this time when my life started to crumble. And because before I was very happy, I didn't feel like I needed anything. I was just like, yeah, I have it, my friends, I have my school and all these kind of things. I was always looking forward to go to school. And here in the United States, my life started to crumble. And I was like, what's going on? My mom and stepdad started to having a lot of problems. They were not compatible together. And I was looking and I was like, why is this happening? And I started like even crying out to God, and I was like, why is this happening here? Why did you bring us here to the United States to just suffer more? So I was like really intrigued, like, why is this? I was like in this indignation of why, and asking, and I was going to school and my grades were starting to lower more and more and more. One thing because of the English, and because of the stress that was going on at home. So I remember one day I was on my bed and I started praying. And I didn't used to pray a lot, just when I really needed it, because I was raised that way, you know. Of course, I was ready to pray every day, but I was not doing it. But this time I was really like, Lord, please make a way for me to get out of this situation, because it was so stressful. And at first I called a friend and I was like, can you please take me? Can I please go live with you? And she's like, yes, I can help you. Or actually, she told me that before, but when I called her, she never answered. So I came back home and my mom told me, Cristina, would you like to go and stay for a week with some of our friends? They were a family. The Manigo family was the grandmother and her daughter. And I was like, okay. And I met them before, the Sabbath before, at their church. So I was kind of a little bit familiar. So then I packed my bags. I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I packed my bags. I went to their house. And I remember that night when I was in their house, I remember sleeping with a smile on my face for the first time in my life. I don't remember ever going to bed with a smile on my face. Just because, you know, things were already fine. But at that time, that was the first experience that I truly had with God, that He answered this kind of prayer. I know that He answered other prayers, but this was so special. So that time, I saw that God was working in my heart. And that week that I was supposed to be with that family became in 3 months. So I spent there those 3 months with those people. And that's when I saw a true representation of Christ in people that are actually studying the scriptures. And I've never seen that before. Even though I was going to church, I was like, wow, nobody ever taught me how to study the Bible. Nobody ever taught me the love of God and what is He plans for people, and that He has a plan. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So my heart was getting warmer and warmer and was reaching after God. And little by little, I was going to school and I was like, wow, things were starting to change in my life. So it was I believe it was in January or December that I had to go back with my mom. At that time, my mom was living in a woman's shelter. She separated from her husband. She couldn't be with him anymore, and she told me, Cristina, you need to come and live with me in this woman's shelter. We need to be together. And I was like, at that time, I came to live with her. I was not very happy. I wanted to stay with that family because I was starting to read the Bible. I was starting to learn so much about Christ. And I was getting really on fire for Christ. I was having this reconversion. And in that month that I stayed with my mom, because I prayed, Lord, I really want to be homeschooled again. I don't see why I should go to school. I feel like you have something else for me. So that was my first desire of change, to really be homeschooled. And I understood that by being with my mom, that would be very hard for me to be homeschooled. So I wanted to go back with the Manigo family, with the grandma and her daughter. And I prayed. I actually, at first, I was really battling with my mom. I was like, Mom, I want to go. I don't want to be here. But the more I tried, the more she said no. So then that was one of the first lessons that God taught me, to trust in Him. Because in my own hands, I could not do anything. I saw myself so powerless. And that was one of my first experiences that I really started studying the Bible. And I was really learning to claim the promises amidst one of the hardest trials that I was going through. And as I started praying and trusting God entirely and claiming His promises, God answered my prayer that I would be back by the 26th of January. He answered the exact prayer I was praying. So I was back at their home on January 26, 2015. And that's when I started to be homeschooled. I was homeschooled, and in March that year, 2015, again, my mom told me to go back with her. She finally found a nice house that there were some Christian families in there, so she could work there as well. So I moved out with her, and that's where I started really doing more kind of like Bible work, because there were some different Christians that, different religions, that we started coming together and study together and sing together. So it was really a blessed experience for me. I saw that God actually had a purpose for me over there in that house. And I saw that the things that He had given me, I could help others. And as I was there, I was learning more about my purpose in life. And I started studying. I was still homeschooled. And I remember studying, and I opened this book, and it was talking about the importance of youth. And I was like, wow, importance of youth. And I started reading more and more and more. And I was devorating all those books talking about the importance of youth and that God is calling youth for service. And in my mind, I was like, wow, I want to give my life to Christ. I want to be able to be in His service. And I remember in those months, I was counting all the hours I was doing school, homeschooling. And I was like, there's 5 hours in a day that I'm spending to learn these things when God is calling me for something different. And I remember studying so much as I was learning about youth, and I was learning about Christian graces, and I was learning so much about what is God's calling for me. And I was studying for hours and hours every day. And I saw that the school was just taking me so much time. And then I was like, I remember sitting on my chair on my desk and thinking, Lord, I want to be a full-time worker for You. And as I prayed that God will show me what I would do, He showed me, hey, you can be a medical missionary. I always enjoy that. So one day I came up to my mom and I said, Mom, I'm going to quit going to school. I want to be a full-time worker for God. And I don't know, but God really made a miracle, because my mom said, okay. I think at that time, I don't think she really processed that very well, because she was in stress. And I just said, I'm going to quit this. And because usually when you say that to parents, they're like, no, you're not going to do that. That's crazy. But God, I think He really helped me through that. And so I quit doing even the homeschool. And I was like, okay, I started studying more, and I started learning more about medical missionary work and trying to help others and to apply the things that I knew. And then my mom one day told me, Cristina, there's this wellness center in Illinois that you could go to be trained as a medical missionary. And at first I was like, no, I don't want to go. And that was strange, because first of all, like, I wanted to be a full-time worker for God and be a medical missionary, but I didn't want to leave the friends that I've made, like the medical family that helped me so much to learn the Bible. I did not want to leave them. And that was, and one day I was thinking, in my mind, I was like, Cristina, what are you going to sacrifice? Are you really wanting to work full-time for God? Are you really wanting to give your life to Christ? And I said, yes, Lord. So if you truly want me to go, you're going to have to bring the means, because I do not have the money to go to this school. So the next day, God provided the money for me to go to that school. And I left in June. Actually, at the end of July, the 29th of July, I left to Illinois in the train. And I remember as I was in that train, I was praying and I was writing on my journal. I was like, you know what? I know that I'm not going to the school only to be blessed, but also to bless. I knew that God was calling me for something even higher than just learn there. So as I went to that school, that's where I met, since it was a wellness center, there was a lot of patients coming. That's where I truly understood what it means to work for souls, and the beauty and the joy that it is, because there's a lot of souls that were sad, depressed, they were sick. And I was there for them to encourage them. There were some mothers that were so discouraged about their children. I was telling them my testimony, and they were crying. And in that time, when I learned what it means to be truly used by God, that flame started growing even bigger in my heart to be able to help others. So I came back from that school in November, at the end of November, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to start my own ministry. I want to be a medical missionary. So I started working on my website. I started working on doing some consultations with people. And as I was there doing that, Elisa, that she was volunteering at Walks to God Ministries, that I've met some of the team at the camp meetings that I went before, because there's some camp meetings that I was attending all these or this span of time that I've been talking about with the Manigos. There's this ministry, and they're like, Cristina, would you be willing to volunteer? And I said, yes, I would be, even though I was still working on my ministry, on trying to build it. But for some reason, God had put in my heart to volunteer at this ministry. So I started as transcribing some videos, and then I moved to become a graphic designer. And later on that year, that was in 2015, December, that's when I volunteered. And that's when my life truly changed, because that's when I started collaborating together with youth. Now remember, many, if not 100% of my friends from Spain, I had to lose my friends. I lost all my friends that I had. And I was basically alone in the Manigos. That was the only thing. But you know what? Once I started ministry, God gave me the best friends you could ever have. Because there's the best friends that they're really helping you to walk in the Christian life and to truly help you grow. So I started working with all these young people, and even working more and reaching souls for Christ. And I started seeing that our labors were really reaching others. And as I was doing that, in 2016, I enrolled for a missionary school, Red Division in Oregon, and that's when we learned a lot of practical training and a lot of skills that we truly needed as missionaries, to learn how to give Bible studies. And that's when, again, I was starting to learn how to be a Bible worker. And, there were trials there, but God has truly taught me even more in that school how to go through trials. There's this verse in Psalms 55:22. It says, cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. And I remember claiming those promises so much during that school, because, God brings trials upon you that you may truly be able to learn. And trials, if received as educators, they will produce joy. So in my heart, I started trusting even more, and I started having this peace and understand more about trials in my Christian experience. And after the school, or while I was at school, that's when God put in my heart to learn about leadership. And I realized that we are all leaders. We all have an influence upon the ones that are around us. And I had this desire to have the best, to truly follow God's plan for a school, for a ministry. And I realized that we really need to understand leadership. So that's when my heart was really going after really learning about leadership. So that's when even the ministry, as we all started learning about leadership, the ministry, Walks God Ministry, started growing even more and more and more. There's more volunteers coming in. We were able to work in a better systematic, harmonious way. That's when the online church started, and this online church that is such a blessing. Hundreds of people are coming every day. Every week. And so many beautiful things have been happening. And there's so much more to my testimony. There's so much more of things that I could tell you. But one thing that I want to tell you is that God truly has a purpose for you. And I would like to read Isaiah 55, verses 2 and 3. This has been one of the most influential verses for me that truly helped me to make the decided effort to follow Christ. Isaiah 55, verse 8 and 9. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." You know what? This whole experience was never easy. There were trials all the way that I didn't all mention it in all this time. But there was trials all the way because, you know what? So many people told me, no, you are not going to be useful to the society if you don't go to school. You're not going to be useful if you're going to be a missionary. And my mom was also like not agreeing with me in this time that I wanted to do this work and work for souls. All the people around me, they were not agreeing with me. I was really getting kind of like that persecution that no, what you're doing is not right. You shouldn't do this. And it was hard. And it is hard when you're choosing to follow Christ. It is a cross. But you know what? It's worth it. Because I've never had a more peaceful and joyous life than when I truly gave my heart to Christ and I truly chose to serve Him and to follow my purpose for Him. Because once I understood that He has even higher thoughts than I do, even higher ways than I do, I saw, you know what, there's something bigger that I don't see and I want to follow it. I want to follow Christ. And don't be afraid of losing your family, your friends, because God is going to give you double or triple or tenfold more. And really, I would say, stay strong and truly pray that God will show you what He has for you. Because it is truly when we start in ministry, God is calling each of us to do something for Him. And, you know, how can we live if we don't know if Christ is truly smiling upon us? And I would encourage each of you to just really give your life to Christ and consider your ways. Consider where you are and what is He calling you to do, because He's calling each of us for a high purpose, for us to be leaders and to do something better in life. So I would encourage you to share this video with others if this has been helpful to you. And I know that, you know, testimonies are always encouraging for others. And I will encourage you to share in the comments as well, like what has been one of the most important Christian experiences that you've gone through, something that really has been like so huge in your Christian experience that God has showed you more of the way that you should go. We would love to hear that. We would love to hear your testimonies. And thank you so much.